Extremely honored to have Professor Sadagopan here amongst us. Professor Sadagopan needs no introduction. I mean, he's a person who has made a name for himself in the academia, in the industry, by the sheer excellence of work that he has done on technology, research, and building institutions. Professor Sadagopan is the founder director for IIITB here. If I go into the details of introduction, which I had sort of shared, his bio, it will run into pages and volumes. My intent is not that. I don't want to come in between yourself and Professor Sadagopan. He spent about 20 years, 2 decades almost with IIT Kanpur. He's a phenomenal blogger. I just got a question in my update about front of the funnel, blogging. He's a phenomenal thinker, and the way that he blogs and keeps himself contemporary is an awesome thing to see. I have seen phenomenal learning whenever I have met him, and I'm sure each one of you, for all the time that you're going to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour, every single minute you're going to make use of his insight and perspectives about various things about learning, about careers, and also about technology and disruption that are happening in that space. Professor Sadagopan, please welcome him. So I'll leave it to you.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So it's indeed an honor. So I don't need mic, right? See, I tell you, some of us are trying to, you are a teacher for so long, so what happens to you? Suddenly, sometimes I realize that, look, maybe 8 o'clock in the night or 10 o'clock in the night, I'm kind of telling something to my wife, and my wife has to remind me, Mister, you are not lecturing. Because I'll be shouting at the speaker, right? Because you get used to it. 300, 400 is something that's so common, right? So 30 is no problem, right? So what I want to do is that, you see, what is the advantage some of us have? Okay. One is very simple, right? Year after year, we get dumber by half, right? That's what happens. So, you all know, simple, right? Exponential growth. So, my IQ level is close to 0. But the good thing of being a teacher is that in spite of your falling IQ, you keep meeting the same 16-year-olds and 21-year-olds. Okay? So, because of that, you're kind of kept all the time on toes, right? So, hopefully, we pretend to teach for a couple of years, maybe 4 years for an undergraduate student and 2 years for a master student. But end up actually signing a contract that the students teach you all your life. This is what happens. So that is what our perspective is. So I've been talking to Dheeraj for quite some time, and one of the things which many of us are concerned with in this country is that as we kind of become larger in terms of quantum of people, quantum of business, pretty much, I'm sure you all know that with no arrogance, we are becoming the global leader in IT, if not the leader. Because, just to give you some numbers, I think if you count, there are different ways of counting IT professionals. So it's about, at peak, US had something like 10.4 million. They kind of contracted to about 4.5, 4. And we are about 2.5. So the kind of growing by about 150,000 to 250,000. So it looks like that at some point in time, maybe 4 years from now, we would actually be the number 1. Okay? So when we actually become the number 1, what is important for us is to realize is that a leader is a leader because the leader is able to operate at multiple parts of the spectrum. Operating only in one part of the spectrum, you would never become the leader. Okay? And much of my talk is all about how do you look at what you guys do. Okay? And I'm sure that all of you have your own perspective on what you do. Okay? But I think it is also important for you to develop a larger perspective. And what I will do is that take examples from other industries, other professions, and then come back and see how what you do is actually part of the larger gains ran of IT in this country and why it is important. And talk about some of the issues that are going to be important. Okay. So this is how my talk would go. Okay. So little bit of, it's important for you to get a quick perspective of why certain things are viewed in a particular way and draw parallels from the other industries as well as the professions. Okay. And one of the unusual things about computing is, unlike other industries, the growth has actually happened pretty much in the last 30, 40 years. And in fact, some of us are possibly the luckiest guys because we have seen it all. Okay. So what happens is that, like when I tell my students that, look, many of us got our PhDs before the microprocessors were there, kind of very hard to believe. And so, other day I just asked the class, okay, so I just put out a notice, okay, there is $1 million job waiting, so please come to my office. So they all came to my office. The job is available for anyone with 15 years of experience in Java programming. Okay, you can go and get your uncle, auntie, brother, sister, anyone, but you have to come back in 15 minutes. And some fellows ran looking for uncles and aunties with 15 years, more than 15 years experience in Java. But one smart fellow said, no sir, I think there is a catch, because Java is not 15 years old. Okay. But quite often people don't think that Java, they think somehow that there will be some guy with Java, with 15 years of experience in Java. So what happens is that a lot of things happen, things happen over a period of time. And I think the fact that we have been around for so long, we kind of tend to develop a perspective. So what happens is, if you really look at many of us, okay, much of computing was actually known as programming, right? And it is also very natural, right? When you think of a new country like France, okay, supposing you are going to France, what is that you will immediately think? Maybe I should learn French. But actually speaking, language is a small part. You should kind of understand French cuisine, you should understand French culture, you should understand maybe the history of France, the geography of France, everything is there. But you tend to overplay the language. The same thing happens in computing. So, we all program for ourselves because as part of our PhD work, we program some machine, we wrote a program. The good thing was, when you write a program for yourself, okay, everything is one person. Who gives the requirements? Me. Who takes down the requirements? Me. Who checks the requirements? Me. Who kind of, that's what is called the DFDs? Me. Who actually codes? That is me. Who does the testing? It is me. Who does the documentation? It is me. And because of that, there is a complete understanding. So I don't do many things. Okay, certain things are internalized. But little later, what used to happen was that we used to kind of program for friends. If you go back in the history, AT&T, the C language and Unix came because AT&T was a telecom company. As part of the telecom company, the telecom engineers said that, look, we guys don't understand. They called a couple of guys, why don't you write something for us? Okay, it's a kind of a deal. I still remember that I had a Filipino student. Okay, so that guy had some difficulty in programming, but he loves shopping. So I had a nice deal. I would never go and shop. We'll go to a Chinese store and get me some rice, dal, etc., etc. I'll do the program for myself. Nice barter economy. So computing guys were actually used that way. Some of the physics guys in NASA and other places, they wanted some computing. So when you are writing program for friends, once again, there's a fair amount of understanding between the end user and you. Okay? So life becomes much simpler. And only later, people started programming for others. Others whom you don't know, others you don't relate to. And that is the time when you actually need this huge stuff which becomes part of the software development life cycle, etc., etc. And remember that is the time, fundamentally what happened is, the production and the consumption got separated. When I was programming for myself, the production of software and the production of the tool and the consumption is the same. It goes little bit to my friends. And only recently, TCS and Infosys of the world, the Wipros of the world created what is called programming for a salary and programming for someone you don't even know. And particularly product companies like Microsoft, you have one more step. Who gave the specification for Xbox? Did they go and ask those guys? No. You do what is called dream up the specs. Because you are creating something which does not exist. You cannot get. Kastur Rangan used to say, if he had actually gone ahead and asked the people how many satellites there will be business, he would have got the same number which IBM CEO said. You all know the joke, right? Once IBM CEO said, by 2000, the world would need 3 IBM computers. Or some such thing. So, Indian Space Research and Kastur Rangan, they said, look, let us put satellites, people come with imaginative applications. Okay, that is so the primary thing I want you to realize is, at some point in time, computing had this separation of production and consumption. So before we talk, I was kind of talking to some of your colleagues and said that sometimes we in IT industry, we think that we have a chip in the shoulder. And generally people will say, oh, what works in other industries does not work. We are a new industry, we are a knowledge industry, we are a newborn industry, we are very different, etc. etc. But gentlemen and ladies, we are no different from every other industry. It's just a question of time. I was jokingly telling them, here is a girl who is 13 and everybody says that, look, you are a teenager. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, every time they say she's a teenager. She's become 20, 21, 22. But she thinks she's a teenager. That is the same problem of IT. That is the same problem of IT. We are like any other industry. And if you actually see, every industry goes through this. Everybody will say internet, there's no such thing that has ever happened out of internet. You have some nice charts, right? The world took so many years and internet beats every record. All that is fine. But this also disappeared, right?
Oh, yes. Actually, this will come out.
Okay. What we don't realize is that it is not only that internet came at some point in time, but equivalent of this existed in other industries. Going back, you all know that automobile was made in a particular way, right? You all know about the story of T model of Ford. But what General Motors did was, it actually kind of created a new form of production, where wheels are produced somewhere, chassis is produced somewhere, steering is produced somewhere. They had assembly. To make that assembly happen, we have what is called railroads and roads. So that means, in order to have the consumption point and the production point separated, you had a highway system. And equivalent of that for software is internet. If you really think about it, it is just a very logical step. And every industry goes through this: production, consumption, separation. And once you have that, you have all the attendant good things and the not so good things. And the not so good things, I keep telling my students, it's kind of nice to be part of IT industry. But 20 years from now, what will be the shape of IT industry? When I tell the truth, they get a shock of life. When you tell them, the industry may not exist. Why? The industry may not exist in its present form. Because IT also stands for invisible technology. Right? And, the inspiration is automobile. You go and read history. There was a time in the early part of 20th century, thousands and thousands of fellows used to call themselves automotive engineers. What happened to all of them? Automobiles have not disappeared. This world consumes, how many automobiles we consume, right? We consume about 60 to 70 million automobiles of various forms and shapes. There are lots of engineers who work for the automobile industry, but they don't call themselves automotive engineers. They call themselves by anything else. Second, how many fellows of the automobile industry are designing cars? 5%. 1%. It's actually 1.5%. 98.5% of the people have nothing to do with design of the car. More interesting, even in the car, How many fellows are designing